this taping, it is a smoky Monday evening here in Los Angeles. The sun looks like a fireball as it sinks into our dark, hazy horizon. How are you doing, listeners? What state do you live in? And which current crisis is affecting you the most? Is it COVID-19? Climate change? Misogyny in the workplace or government? Racism? Welcome to my podcast, Everything's Relative with Eve Sturgis, where we talk about DNA surprises, a phenomenon that is extremely interesting and definitely still happening all around the world as mail-in DNA kits become more and more popular and available. And it has nothing to do with all the things happening in 2020, except that it does, because the personal is global and the personal is political and the personal is everywhere. So that's what I have to say about that. Welcome to episode 9. I'm Eve Sturgis. Man, oh man, guys, hello. Let's just have a minute to welcome new listeners, new followers. There's a lot of you because the last episode 8 with Jason and Miguel really got around, is still going. It's so exciting. I'm so glad that story resonated with you. I think Jason and Miguel are very connected and I have a lot of really good friends and community that spread that episode and listened to that episode, and I really appreciate it. So I hope that we can continue to entertain and educate and inspire you here. So we are so happy to have you here, and I am saying we, even though I am all alone in my basement. So what I mean when I say we is that it's me and my husband who are glad to have listeners. And maybe my co-host is an imaginary friend. Okay, so quick order of business. Maybe there's more than one if I can remember what the other thing I was going to talk about. All right, well, if I think of that one, I'll jump in. But I'll jump in and interrupt myself. But in the meantime, the one thing I wanted to say was, so about being a guest on my podcast. I want to talk about that because a lot of people have contacted me about being a guest. And more often than not, in fact, I think 100% of the time, I send them an email back and I say, yes, let's definitely figure this out. And then I never hear from them again. And sometimes it's because people feel shy after the initial impulse to suggest it, or they realize it would upset somebody, or I don't know. But I'm also not sure if something gets lost in translation. So I just wanted to put this message out there. If you have ever sent me a message about being on my podcast and you are waiting for me for correspondence, please reach out again. It is way better to communicate with me with email. You could do eve@everythingsrelativepodcast.com. Do not try to communicate me with Facebook. But I'll try. I try. I'm just very bad at the Facebook. I'm just very bad at the Facebook. But at this point, I don't care. I'm doing my best. But I really would like to connect with you again. So I would like all those people who I've heard from who were interested, and then they all kind of fell off the face of the earth for one reason or another. And the reason that I don't like to follow up is because I don't want anyone to ever feel like they're being pressured from me. The NPE situation is often so fraught, and I never want to be accused of pressuring anyone to be in a situation that they might regret or that makes them uncomfortable. So my policy is to send one note and then I don't follow up because I want to give people the right. They want the right and the freedom to do what they will with their story. So I never thought of that other piece of information, so we'll just keep on going. Let's talk about this episode. This is a big episode with a woman named Kimberly. We had no problem with correspondence. It all came together really quickly in the way that things in life sometimes do. She reached out to me. She had a story. I said, great, let's schedule it. And it was less than a week before we were talking, and we talked for over 2 hours on a school night. And it was even later for her because Kimberly is in Kansas, which is so cool to me. So anyway, she is really new to her NPE experience, which is always interesting because the story is kind of like flying out of them. I could feel it sort of burning inside her. You could really sense the energy talking with her. Also, when we scheduled our call, she mentioned while we were scheduling it that she had to do something for her Horseshoe League. And that's when I knew that Kimberly is a total badass and that we would definitely be friends. So when she called, we talked about all sorts of things. And I did try to edit it down because there were also things we talked about that I'm actually going to try and get her back. I'm going to rope Kimberly into coming back for some other things. She's so strong and has multiple perspectives within the NPE equation. And I think it's really important to hear all parts of her story so that we can get all the ideas and really understand people better. So there wasn't enough time in this one episode to cover it all. So, yeah. Okay. So this is the first time we're talking to Kimberly, and I'm going to schedule another talk with her soon. There's more to her than just playing horseshoes. Enjoy. This is episode 9, season 2 of Everything's Relative. I'm Eve Sturgis, and I'm talking with Kimberly. Okay. Cool. Kimberly, this is so cool. This is Eve Sturgis calling you.
Hi.
And then the other thing that is kind of fun and different about this episode, no matter what it is you are going to talk about, is that we are going in almost totally blind. Like, I don't really know your story. And if you sent me some details, I got to be honest, I'm not remembering them right now. So
I didn't send you any, I don't think.
I don't think you did. But there was something about your like availability and enthusiasm that I was like, yes, let's just like get on the phone right now. Like sometimes making plans with people is better last minute than planned ahead, way ahead. You know what I mean? There like isn't time to cancel or think about it too much. So I'm super excited. Where are you located?
Hutchinson, Kansas.
You are in Kansas. And what's it like in Kansas right now?
It got really cold today.
Oh.
Like it was boiling over the weekend, and today it is cold and rainy.
Oh, how strange. Okay.
The high tonight is 49.
Oh, that's really chilly.
Yeah. Although I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it probably feels like such a relief. Do they think that like the winter has arrived, or is it just like a cold front is moving through and you'll get it?
It's just a cold front. It'll pop back up to the 80s next week.
Mm-hmm. Wow, weird. Okay. And did you grow up there?
I did, born and raised.
And are you still in the town that you were born and raised in?
Well, let me rephrase this. I was kind of raised in 2 towns, mostly Hutchinson. But yes, I am. Okay.
Oh, you know what else I want to talk about before? Because that's almost a perfect place to say like, well, why don't you explain to me growing up? But I would like to talk about Horseshoe League. Is that something that you emailed that said that you were
in? That is something I'm in.
Can you tell me a little bit about
that? We just had our state tournament this weekend.
Whoa. And how long have you been in a horseshoe league?
Let's see. I started, I want to say 2 years ago.
And how did that get started? Have you always been a horseshoer?
No.
Okay.
My son started playing with my stepdad. And so I started playing, he started like 3 years ago. I started playing to be able to spend time with my son.
Oh, that's sweet.
And my stepdad, and then my dad, and when I say my dad, I mean my birth certificate father.
Sure.
He drives down from Emporia every other week to play with our league. And then he comes down for the tournaments because they don't have a league in Emporia.
Oh. Okay. So it became it became a way for you to spend time with your son. And do all 3 of you play on the same league? Your son, yes. Your dad, and you, and
my stepdad.
Okay. And how are you at Horseshoes?
Well, I would say fair.
Okay.
But I had a good weekend. I won first place for state in my division this weekend.
Whoa! Kimberly! That's totally awesome.
I don't know how it happened.
So you're telling me that right now I am talking to the Kansas state champion for horseshoeing.
For my division. Yes.
I'm sure it's an incredibly competitive and intense division.
There are a lot of men and women who play incredibly well.
This is amazing. I grew up with I grew up across the street from a park that has horseshoe pits. Is that what they're called? Horseshoe pits. It has a huge horseshoe pits that's kind of famous, not famous for, but in town, like people know where that is and what that is in my little town that I grew up in. And then I have like a real clear memory and sort of like a fond association of horseshoeing with my dad, my birth certificate dad, and his brothers and my grandfather. But I had no idea that it could ever be so big that there were leagues and that there would be tournaments.
There is a world horseshoe tournament. Wow. I won't go to that, but it exists.
Are you going to go to nationals? Does winning in Kansas mean that you go to nationals now?
I don't think there is a nationals. Other people
it just goes state. It goes from state to globe. Okay.
If there is, somehow I've missed it. Well, I wasn't even going to play this past weekend. Oklahoma has a 100-mile yard sale thing every summer, and I've wanted to go for a long time. And this is their 100th year, and they just had it, and I was going to do that.
Wait, it's their 100th year of the 100-mile
yard sale?
Yard sale?
Yeah, different towns, all kinds of things.
That sounds so fun.
I know.
As someone who loves yard sales and thrifting and finding vintage things, you just gave me a road trip idea.
Oh yeah, they do it every year. I'm going to try again next summer because this summer I decided to stay so I could spend time with my dad. Mm-hmm. But I'm gonna make it one year.
You're gonna make it. Maybe if you and I can hold each other accountable, make it happen.
I'm gonna need a trailer.
Road trip. Yeah, this is gonna be great. Okay. All right. It's all falling together. Okay. So yes. Okay. So we've already even mentioned dads and stepdads and birth certificate dads. How do you like to tell your story? Like if you were do you tell have you told friends? Is it something you're open about? Or do you want me to ask you interview style questions? It's up to you.
I mean, there's multiple, like I said, I was going to make points, so I made sure I didn't miss anything. Guess who didn't do that?
Well, I was going to say you probably are just basking in the glory of being the champion of horseshoeing.
I'm all over the map. I was building a workbench for the new workstation I'm building myself so that I have a place to set up my Cricut and my
like a Cricut like crafting
printer and my heat press.
Okay, is that a pastime that you do for fun, or is it a work, or what is?
It's a fun thing that I'm going to try to turn into a money.
Those are the best kind.
Maybe.
What kind of stuff do you do?
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of a jack of all trades, but I do t-shirts, stickers. I'm learning how to do tumblers. A sublimation printer does a different type of t-shirt and tumbler and coasters. And I mean, you can do basically anything with a sublimation printer. I got a t-shirt heat press. That way everything is nice and even. Mm-hmm. I build things with wood, like I build tables and stuff.
You're like not just crafty. You are like, you exemplify the original word of the word.
I'm very handy.
Yeah.
I do electricity. I mean, my stepdad's a carpenter. Mm-hmm. And I learned a lot from him and Pinterest.
Yeah. Wow. Put those two together and you've really got something. How about making tote bags or?
Yep, I can do those too.
Hey, maybe we should get together and make some things for Everything's Relative podcast.
That would be fantastic.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it later. Okay. We don't have to talk about it right now. Okay. But just like put a pin in it. I've already written it down for myself. But I think that'd be really fun.
I agree.
Okay, cool. Figure out how to make that work. All right. So you tell me.
Okay. We'll start from the beginning of Kimberly. So all my life, I have
Mhm.
been told that, okay, my mom had my brother when she was 16. And my dad and her got married. My dad
Mhm.
is 3 years older than her. And then
Mhm.
I guess it was so incredibly painful, she made my dad get a vasectomy. And then she decided that wasn't it because she wanted me. So she had
Mhm.
him have a reversal.
How many? Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry. How many children do you have?
I have 4.
You have 4. Do you ever go through that, like when you have when? Well, I'll just talk about me and then see if you relate to this. But when I have 3, and every child until this last one, I guess it's only 2, but that's a lot. When they're born, I'm like, I'm never doing that again. And it's not necessarily from the labor specifically. It's just from like the whole experience. Like I hate being pregnant. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. And then there just comes a time where I'm like, oh, we are really ready. Love it. I love having children. Let's have babies. um, so I wonder if that's what happened to your mom. She just like got to the place where she forgot and the hormones kicked in and she was like, I'm ready again.
It could be. Who knows with that woman?
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Okay, so she had a vasectomy reversed. I mean, she
he
didn't, but
did.
she asked her husband to do that, and that's what he
So
did.
he had the vasectomy. He had it reversed. Um, and so my whole life, I was told that I was wanted so badly that my dad
Mhm.
had a reversal to have me. And I was
Woo!
told that I cooked 2 weeks too long. Um,
Oh, only
yeah,
because we all know the end of the story, or
yes.
we all know the twist.
Is that Kimberly was right on time.
Oh, you were 2 weeks late. No problem.
So that's the story I've been told of like my origins. And that's like oh, cool. You know, I came from this. That's how much I was wanted. Well, then
Mhm.
my parents got divorced 2 months before I was born. It
Oh.
was a very
Oh.
rough, rocky thing.
Mhm.
And growing up, every time my mother got into a sticky situation where it wasn't safe for my brother and I,
Mm.
my dad would come get us and we would go live with him until she was in a place that she could, take us back. And
Mhm.
so we bebopped back and forth.
Right. Mhm.
Um,
What's the age difference between you and your brother?
my brother and I are 4.5 years apart.
Okay. And what was that like for you to hop back and forth between your mom and your dad's house?
Um, well, I think it was probably easier on my brother than it was on me
Hmm.
because when he went to dad's, he didn't have to be my babysitter. And he got
Oh,
to be
okay.
a kid.
Hmm.
Um, but I loved hanging out with dad. If
Hmm.
dad
Hmm.
went to go do it, he would ask all of us kids if we wanted to go because I have
Hmm.
2 step siblings. And the only one who ever said yes was me. So I went to golf camp one summer because my dad golfed at that time.
Oh, that's really sweet.
So we went back and forth, and through that, I don't even know how I heard the rumors, but I had heard rumors that dad wasn't my dad. Um, and you're like, okay, whatever. I just figured that dad's side of the family didn't like my mom because their marriage was very rocky
Hmm.
and they were just toxic for each other, I guess. Um, and then when I was 12, at that point, I was living with my dad and I'd gone to visit my mom. And I don't remember the situation exactly, but I had hurt her somehow. And to hurt me back, she
Mm.
told me that my dad wasn't my dad.
So, like emotionally, you'd hurt her feelings somehow.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
And so after that visit, I went to my dad and I told him what she had said. And he told me, if I wanted, we could do a DNA test. But it
Mm.
didn't matter what it said. I was his daughter.
Right.
So, me being the classic overthinker I am, I held on to that all these years
Hmm.
because a person who is sure that you are their child doesn't say it doesn't matter what it says.
Right.
So between
wow.
that and her actually saying it, it like stuck in my brain.
Sure, of course.
So I've been talking about it for years. And then I think it was like 6 years ago, my stepbrother told me that he actually believed that my dad wasn't my dad, and he had taken me in because I didn't have a dad.
Oh.
And I also knew that my dad didn't have a whole lot to do with me until I was about 3. But I figured that's because he's not a baby and a little kid person.
Right. They had this rocky relationship, and
yeah,
visitation can be tangled. Okay.
So along comes this year. I'd been talking to my dad's half brother about ancestry because he was sending me pictures of my like great grandparents and like way down the line on my dad's side. And we got talking about it, and somehow I found out he had done ancestry. And I had been trying to convince my brother to do it with me, and he just wouldn't do it. He's got something about putting your DNA out in the world.
Oh, okay, sure.
He was military, and
right.
So
who knows what they're doing with the information?
Well, yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, here's my chance. So Black Friday comes along last November, and I convinced my brother to buy it for me for my birthday in December.
Great. Okay.
So the test comes in December. I see it. I look at it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not quite ready. And so I set it on a shelf.
Oh, the test arrives and you said I'm not quite ready?
And I set it on a shelf. And my second to oldest daughter nagged me until I took this silly test. And so I took it like, I think the end of January, and it came in the beginning of December. And I want to say that test absolutely grossed me out. I have an issue with saliva. Apparently.
I don't think you have an issue. Well, yeah, I mean, I just want to validate your disgust as someone who's done the 23andMe thing. I had no idea that is what is expected.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what? I'm sorry. How much into the what? I totally expected it to be a Q-tip.
Yeah, me too. So anyhow, I did the test. She nags me all the way to the post office, and I have to text her and tell her that I put it in the box.
What do you think your daughter was so interested in or excited about?
My kids have known that it has been a question in my mind for a long time, and I just wanted, and the reason I did the test is because I just wanted to get the question out of my head. I didn't actually expect it to come back the way it did. I thought that it would just get the question out of my head and I could just be done with it. We all know that's not how that turned out.
Right.
So
it's becoming a tale as old as time.
So I'm waiting for the results. And I go to Michael's craft store with a friend of mine on March 7th. And we're walking around the store getting invitation stuff for her wedding. And that magical email comes in. And I open it up as she's looking at all kinds of stamp stuff. And I'm reading it. And I'm looking for anything that says the last name Fox. And there was absolutely nothing. Yeah. Like I saw my mom's family. And so I'm still scrolling. And then my friend's like, well, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. We can keep looking. I said, I'm just going to multitask. And I keep looking. So I start messaging my uncle. And I'm like, okay, well, I got my results. This is what they say. Do you match any of these people? And, we didn't. And my husband and I were going to my friend's house that evening for dinner with her and her husband, or I guess fiance. And we were
Did your uncle know about this possibility?
No.
Okay.
Him and my dad aren't close.
Okay.
And we went over there and ate dinner, and we were playing a card game and everything. And the whole time I'm on my phone messaging back and forth with my uncle, and I'm holding it together. I'm in that investigative mode. And we leave. I go home. I go to bed. I'm still just thinking about it. And the next day, I called my dad's, well, it's his cousin, but she's like an aunt to me. Yeah. And I called her because at that point I'm like, well, it is what it is. This is what it is. And when I called her, because I needed to know how she thought he would react, that's when I finally broke. That's when there was no more holding it together. And that was on March 7th is when I got the results in. And that would have been a Saturday. I called my aunt on Sunday, and I happened to be going to Emporia for work, or that direction at least, on Monday, and had already planned on stopping to see my dad. And it wasn't something I wanted to talk to him about over the phone. He actually ordered an ancestry kit that day.
Well, wait a minute. What did your aunt predict? Did she have
She said that he would love me no matter what. And that there's no way I can get rid of them. They're my family. I said, well, good.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah, she said that it wouldn't matter to my dad. So I go and talk to him, and I tell him, and I'm a mess, absolute mess. And at this point, all I know is what the DNA results have said. I haven't figured anything out yet.
Right.
And he tells me, we go to dinner.
You're focused on what it's not saying right now.
Yes, exactly. Right. So we go to dinner, and at one point he's like, well, when I was a baby, I had a complete blood transfusion. Maybe that did something. I'm sitting there thinking, well, I don't think it works that way, but okay. And then at dinner, he tells me that if he was a betting person, he would guess it was this redheaded sheriff in Beaver, Oklahoma. I'm like, okay.
I like them already.
Yeah. So apparently my mom wasn't, and we all knew this, my mom wasn't incredibly faithful, but dad didn't have proof. He had assumptions. So anyhow, I talked to him. I feel a little bit better because I've talked to him. And I start digging. Like, there was one night that I stayed up with my friend that was with me when I got the results. And we did like this triangulation chart trying to figure it out. And through the mix of figuring everything out, I contacted one of the people on there that said that they were my second cousin. She helped a lot.
Oh, great.
And I had it narrowed down to a set of brothers.
Yeah, it's so often that people come up with like brothers or like this team of men.
Yes. And I guess I skipped a part here because this is March. I hadn't spoken to my mother since my birthday in December.
Okay.
So by the time I had it narrowed down to the two brothers, it was like a week and a half after I got the results. And I'm like driving around town, stalking my mom's house, trying to make myself stop. Because I really didn't want to talk to her. But it was necessary. So and through one of my stalking drives, I had called my dad. And I had, he asked me to leave well enough alone. I don't have that capability. I am incapable of this.
Right.
So I end up stopping, and I go there, and I probably surprised her by just walking in the house. It had been, 4.5 months. And I sit there for a moment, do a little small talk, and then I tell her that, I took the test and that the results say that dad isn't my dad. And she says, that's impossible. It's wrong. I said, no, it's not. And then I started telling her the names that were on it. And all of a sudden she gets real quiet. She covers her eyes and she spits out a name. One of the two brothers.
Oh my gosh.
So it confirmed it for me and the cousin on the ancestry that I'd been working for. And I talked to her quite a bit. And her dad is my biological dad's first cousin. She ended up giving me his phone number because I felt obligated to let him know I exist. And then medical history, of course, that's a given. but I didn't have any plans past that.
Mm-hmm.
Can
you tell me like a little bit more about the feeling of obligation that he should know you exist?
Well, here's another fun snippet.
Okay.
My oldest, she'll be 18 in a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
The person on her birth certificate, we got together when I was 3 months pregnant with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not tell her about who her biological father is. She didn't know there was somebody else until
Mm-hmm.
she was 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I just...
Kimberly, this does get layered quickly.
Yes, it does. It does. So I walked with that guilt and that
Mm-hmm.
for 10 years
Mm-hmm.
as a parent. And I just feel like everybody should know who they're connected to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't intend to have a relationship with him, but I felt like he should know.
Mm-hmm.
He could,
With your biological
yes,
father.
yes,
Okay.
and he could do whatever he wanted with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so she gave me her phone number, and I didn't want to accidentally reach his wife.
Sure.
Because if he was going to tell her, that was up to him.
Mm-hmm.
That was not up to me. And also through all this, I realized he's 13 years older than my mom. And so...
Oh, so who knows who's involved?
Yes.
As far as the timeline.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So first thing I did was I was on my way to see my dad one weekend. It would have been like the 21st of March. Mm-hmm. And I called, and it rang, and then went to voicemail, and I hung up, and I couldn't breathe. So I ended up sending a text, and that says, my name is Kimberly. You used to know my parents so-and-so once upon a time. I'd like to have a conversation with you about my mom. And I wait. I don't get a response. So about maybe a week later, I'm like, okay, I'm going to call one more time. I'm going to leave a voicemail. And if he doesn't contact me back, I have fulfilled my obligation. Mm-hmm. So I call, I leave a voicemail that basically says the same thing as the text, and I leave it. The next morning at 8 a.m., I get a text message from him that says, asks if I'm available for a phone call. Mm-hmm. So, I go back into that I can't breathe mode.
Right.
And I was like, okay, yeah, I good, yeah, call. Sure, I can do this. So we talked for probably an hour, maybe. He said that as soon as he saw my text, he knew exactly what it was about.
Oh, sure, of course.
And I think he was kind of hoping I just wouldn't call back. Maybe it would go away. Because that's
what everybody is hoping in these situations.
Well, he also immediately deleted the text. I didn't think about the fact that other people look at their spouse's phones.
Oh.
I don't ever look at mine. My husband doesn't look at my phone. I don't look at his. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, we don't really. I guess things could pop up in a visible way, but we're not a couple that checks on each other either.
Yeah, but I mean, they're an older couple. Mm-hmm. And so I think that she probably helps with technology here and there.
I've also been driving or doing something and been like, hey, yeah, can you check my phone and do this and that? Yeah.
So I find out that he has been married to the same woman 45 years this year.
Uh-huh.
They have 3 daughters, all older than me. Mm-hmm. The youngest is a year and a half older than me.
Okay.
And he tells me what he did for a living. He just tells me about himself and his family. When I asked him about medical stuff, like if there was any medical issues, his response was longevity.
Oh.
Apparently that's a
that's a
medical
problem.
issue. I guess.
Quality problem.
And as he's talking to me, he's very I don't know how to explain it. Like, okay, when I get nervous, I make bad jokes.
Uh-huh.
I'm horrible about it. It was one of the things that my ex-husband hated about me. But I couldn't help it.
I do, yeah. No, I do that too.
He did the exact same thing.
Oh.
Like, at one point because I had told him I have children. At one point he's like, well, so tell me about my grandchildren. And then he goes, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that.
Right. Giggle. Yeah.
And he's just trying to like lighten it up a little. And that's what I do when I'm joking. I'm trying to lighten it up.
Sure.
But it was so weird to hear somebody else do it. Because nobody else in my family does that. So we have that conversation, and during the conversation, it kind of sounds like I wasn't sure if he was going to tell his wife. So we finished that conversation, and that evening I was talking to my husband, and I was like, well, if he tells her, this will tell me what kind of person he is. And I'd say and I was perfectly fine at that point. Like, he could have never spoken to me again, and I'd have been fine.
You felt fine.
I was okay. I knew what I needed to know. I had fulfilled my obligation.
Okay.
So about a week later, his wife, she messages me and tells me that they're willing to open their Facebook up for a little bit. She doesn't know how long, so that I can see pictures of the family. And I told her at that point that I can't add them to my Facebook. I'm not comfortable with that. That I would make my Facebook public so they could look at mine, but I couldn't add them to my Facebook.
Okay.
And then I got to talking to her and holding conversation with her. And next thing I know, that same day, the youngest of the three sisters reaches out to me because she got permission from her parents to reach out to me. Oh, and here's a part.
Oh my goodness.
This is a part you'll like. All of their names, all three of them, their name starts with K.
Yep. No.
Yep.
Come on. None of them are named Kim.
They actually like the name Kimberly, but they've never named one of them Kimberly because people shorten it. I don't go by Kim. I go by Kimberly because my mom has always told me that every Kim she has ever known has been a insert word. And so whenever she's mad at me, she calls me Kim.
Oh.
So I go by Kimberly.
Okay.
So luckily nobody has my name.
But still, I mean, it doesn't even need to be the K that takes effort to do three Ks for females.
4 in total.
4, yeah.
Yeah, but my grandma named me, which is interesting. It's just purely coincidental, I guess. Or there's something I'm not told. So anyhow.
She had a 1 in 26 chance.
Yeah, exactly. So the sisters messaged me, and I ended up getting on a group chat with the three sisters. Said group chat turns into a family chat. And it's in the middle of COVID.
Right.
All we have to do all day.
This is recently. This is 2020. Okay.
Yeah. Yesterday was 6 months since I got my results. So anyhow, it turns into this big family chat, and COVID is going on. So all we have to do is talk to each other, which I think COVID was kind of a blessing.
Yeah.
Because there was no need to rush meeting each other or anything. We did some Zoom calls with everybody. But mostly it was just this family chat. And I'm an open book. if you ask a
Mm-hmm.
question, I'm most likely going to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
I apparently don't have boundaries. So.
That's not the same as not having any boundaries, but I know what you mean.
So we spent, probably, let's see, they messaged me very beginning of April, a good month and a half before we met. And how we met was we decided to get a Airbnb at like a cabin,
Mm-hmm.
and it started out with everybody bringing their whole family. And mind you, all three of the daughters are married.
Mm-hmm.
And they have children. So
a lot of people.
And I'm like, I slowly whittled it down to like just husbands. And then I whittled it down to just us.
Right.
Like I did it slowly because I that was too much for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
that is a lot.
I didn't want to take anybody with me either. I wanted to do it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I had met the youngest daughter the weekend before because we live in the same state. We live like 2.5 hours from each other, and we met in the middle. And I think we went to a park and just talked for probably 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
However, had I not done that, when I pulled up to this cabin, I think I would have just drove off.
Oh.
Because I pull up and I'm sitting there, and I made sure to park in the escape parking spot.
Mm-hmm. Good call.
Just in case. Everybody else was already there.
Yeah, expect the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So I pull up and I'm just sitting there staring at this cabin, and they messaged me on the messenger, and I haven't answered. So they end up sending the daughter out that I had met. And she came out and I started crying. Because it was just so much,
Yeah, just overwhelmed.
But she managed to kind of talk me out of the car.
And you were totally alone? Your husband wasn't with you?
No.
Yeah. Okay.
I prefer to do things like that alone.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Because he doesn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he tries to be as comforting as he possibly can be.
Sure.
But I mean, he doesn't get it. You really can't unless you're in this position.
Right.
So, we stay the weekend. Everything goes wonderfly. And everything has gone wonderfully since. This family is amazing. Oh, there is a piece of the story I forgot. My biological father and my dad were friends.
Aha.
My biological dad is actually the first cousin his first cousin was married to my dad's sister.
Got it.
Which is how they met. So what was my first cousin's, or I guess still family, but so anyhow, and my dad worked for him for a little while too. So they were friends. My parents were married, and him and his wife were married. So, I came out of complete and total deception. Which that is something I struggle with.
Okay. We'll get to that. I want to ask you about that in a minute, but okay.
So anyhow, the weekend goes well. I think we've gotten together at least once a month since May. I took my kids with me in June, at the end of June, I think. Was it June? Yeah, it was in June. And then we went there for July 4th. My husband went with me that time. And then not this past weekend, but the weekend before, all of them drove an hour from Hutchinson because I was on call for work and couldn't go further than an hour away. And so because they live in Oklahoma, and they luckily right by the border. But so they all drove, and we met in Pratt, and did a kind of like a barbecue thing at a park, and celebrated September and October birthdays.
Oh, that sounds really fun.
It was a lot of fun, and you know, I have a lot of nieces and nephews now, and
sure. And is everybody? Are you? Let's see.
Is everybody comfortable?
Yeah, or like, are they open about like this is Auntie Kimberly?
Yes.
Or okay. Wow,
they're
great.
all absolutely amazing. I'm pretty sure their mom is a saint. And yeah, sometimes I'd like her to be my mommy too. Because she's just so sweet and accepting, and I don't know how she does it. Because I don't know if I could be that accepting. Right. I don't know if I could look at that person and not just see the pain. But she does it.
And do you know their version of events? Did she did not know about you until
she did not.
Okay.
He didn't either.
Okay. That was my next question. Okay.
Yep. Apparently my mom told him that she was already pregnant.
Oh, okay.
And when he told his wife, she actually contacted my mom and talked to her on the phone. Started with Messenger and talked to her on the phone, and was very calm. Yes, it was right. Okay. It was right before she messaged me the first time.
Wow.
Because she wanted to make sure that stories lined up.
Oh, okay.
And I can respect that.
Yeah.
I can respect that.
My heart kind of goes out to her. Yeah. That's fair.
My dad isn't like one of those, I'm going to talk about my feelings. I'd rather just swish it under the rug and we're just like never going to talk about this again.
Right.
But I knew he wouldn't tell me.
Right.
Not completely.
Right.
So I went ahead during the month and a half before I met them. I went ahead and got on some antidepressants.
Okay.
So that, because I didn't want to spiral before I could catch it.
Totally.
Because, you know, I have a family and I kind of need to be available for that.
Yep.
And so I was just staying.
It's so funny because I'm like, obviously you're a social worker because as like a therapist, and I wish that more people would recognize their resource availability like that.
Yes. So I had gotten on antidepressants and everything, and it wasn't long after I met them for the first time, and I had seen my dad a few times in between all of this. And every time I saw my dad, I felt guilty because I was talking to them as well. But my dad wasn't talking to me about any of this. Neither of my parents were. And the only ones who were asking me how I was doing was these new parents.
Right.
And I'm like, this isn't right. And so there was one day finally that I went to my mom's house. My dad was there because when my dad comes to town for Horseshoes, he stays the weekend and he stays at my mom's house. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to bite the bullet here. And I go over there and both my parents are sitting on the couch. I wait for my stepdad to leave the room because, you know, I don't want to drag him into any more than he has to be. Poor guy.
Very nice of you.
And I started talking to the both of them. And my mother sat there and looked 100% straight ahead, did not say a word. But I told them that, you know, neither of my parents have asked me how I am. I said, I find that wrong. And I explained to them how I am. And I told them, I'm not okay. I'm never going to be okay. And where everybody says nothing has changed, no, nothing has changed, but everything has changed.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
was like, I am no longer just like Andrew, which is my brother. I'm different now. I was like, and the fact that nobody's talking to me does not help me. So this opened up conversation for my dad and I. I guess he was waiting for me to come to him, which 100% sounds like him.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I've talked to my dad. Like, I went and had breakfast with him this morning because he was here for the state tournament, and then he left with my mom today to go to Colorado. And I found out little bits and pieces of information. Like, I read my baby book recently again, and my mom had wrote a letter when I was 3 to me, and it talked a lot about my birth and how my dad was with me or wasn't. And so I'm like, I feel like I need to ask questions. Most people, or a lot of people, don't get that opportunity because somebody has passed away. For me, everybody's alive. And
yeah, I hear you.
So
same boat.
I bit the bullet this morning and I talked to him about it. And I find out that when my mom
this
had
morning?
me, this morning,
Tuesday, September.
Yes.
Okay. It's amazing. We are like up to date. Holy smokes, Kimberly. Okay.
I just keep asking questions as they come because, there's going to come a point I don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my dad will talk to me. My mother will not, but my dad will. Nor do I really want to talk to her. And he told me that when I was born, he really didn't think I was his. But my mom insisted that I was, and shoved it down his throat so much that at a certain point he's just like, okay, and I was cute.
Right.
He loved me. I was cute and adorable. Yeah. But so, he just accepted me. And that part where my stepbrother said that I didn't have a dad, so my dad took me in. Well, I guess he was right. A few weeks ago, I had gone to Emporia, and my dad left a little bit early to go fishing, and so I talked to my stepmom and to see how he really is,
Yeah, sure.
And I was telling her what my stepbrother had told me, and she's like, well, he probably overheard conversations. And I leave there, and I'm driving home, and I'm like, this was a big enough thing that there were conversations?
Right, like it was just openly talked about in the home.
Yeah. So it just made me really think, who knew what?
Yeah,
and nobody wanted to tell me. I could understand my dad not telling me because that meant he might lose me. I'm not as forgiving with my mom, but there's a whole lot of otherness to go with that.
It sounds like she's somebody we would call a piece of work.
Yes. Yes. Because we already weren't talking. This situation is what made me talk to her. And I love my mom. I don't condemn her for what took place 37 years ago. I do condemn her for using it to hurt me when I was 12 and it turning out to be true. Sure. I do struggle with that. I do struggle with her lack of acceptance of it now and kind of just acting like I shouldn't. My grandmother told me that this guy is no different than a sperm donor.
Oh,
and then tried to say, somewhere in there, I said that my dad is always going to be my dad. And she's like, well, for how long? And that right there for me hit where it hurt. Because one of my biggest fears is losing my dad.
Right.
Which is why I talk to him about everything. Like, I put up a post on Facebook about me getting first place in Horseshoes. Oh, shoot. I can't even tell you that part yet because there's a part I missed I haven't talked about yet. Okay, so after I came out of the woodwork, if I had have done 23andMe, it would have led me directly to them because they had done that.
Oh, they had done that, right.
But I did Ancestry. But one of the daughters had not done anything.
Mm-hmm.
So she decided to do Ancestry. Mm-hmm. So when she gets her results back, us 4 daughters get on Zoom to look at them together.
Oh, no.
And through looking at it, they look at it and they see this person marked as a second cousin. And they're like, who's this? And I had noticed this person, and I had noticed that he was connected to the 2 people that I am. And it was an aunt from one side of the family, or a great aunt from one side of the family, and a great aunt from the other side of the family, which is how I narrowed it down to the 2 brothers.
Right.
But that's not what I was looking for, so I didn't look into it.
Right.
There's a brother. Right. It was his kid.
Oh, no.
Well, he just turned 46. And there were a lot of conversations about whether or not to reach out to him. Mm-hmm. And myself and my biological father, I haven't decided what to call him. We both said to leave it be. If he's not looking, leave him alone. Because it was his son's DNA, not his. And because I know how much it can rock your world. But the daughters so badly wanted to reach out to him. And somewhere along the line, they won. And then when they messaged him, I got drug into the loop at the very last second. And I'm like, what's happening here?
Right, sure. We're all going to his house.
He actually lives in the same town as one of the sisters.
Of course.
But
I mean,
it's
weird that it all does it
all the time. Yeah, he works at a state all the time. So anyhow, they reach out to him, and I guess he has always known that he didn't know who his father was.
Oh, okay.
And his mom had given him some other name, and he was trying to look up this person. Uh-oh. And for him, he found his path. It's a joyous occasion.
Wow.
That's so cool. The barbecue we went to. Yeah, the barbecue thing that we did the weekend before last, his birthday is one of the ones that was celebrated. And the parents gave him 46 years worth of birthday cards.
Oh,
and put an individual message into each one. Wow. Like, it wasn't even my gift, and it was overwhelming for me.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, that 46 is a lot. That would really overwhelm me.
But he's just elated. So now I can go back to where I was. I posted the thing on Facebook, and he put a post up there that said, that's my sister, and then put like a little picture that says like number 1. So first I try to hide it. And then I realized it only hides it from me.
Right.
So I didn't know what to do, because my mom's family, my mom and my grandma, are really worried about this family finding out.
Oh, okay.
My dad, I wasn't sure where he stood. So I talked to my dad about it at breakfast. And I said, okay, this is what's happened. This is where I'm at. What do I do? And he's like, well, do you not? He's like, well, it depends. Do you want to have a relationship with him? I was like, well, I talk to him all the time. And he's like, okay, then what's your problem? I said, Mom and Grandma. I said, and then there's your family. He's like, my family could just think it's a really good friend of yours, or it doesn't. Right. They don't care. They're not judgmental like that. They don't care. And he's like, you know what? Don't worry about your mom's family. You're comfortable. You do you. And
your dad is so cool.
I love my dad. My dad's amazing.
He's really great.
There is one very, very important person I have not talked about yet.
Okay.
My brother. Him and I, yes, he is and has always been my rock. And obviously he's like the first person I called. And he has done his best to comfort
Yeah.
me. But he,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, well, if it was me, I think I would have just left it alone. I'm like, you don't know that until you're there.
Right.
Um, and well, and here I have ended up with this just incredibly nice, welcoming family. My sister-in-law tells me that she thinks that my brother's a little jealous of that.
Oh, yeah. That's possible.
Um,
That
and
totally makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, and I think he's worried about being replaced. But
Mm-hmm.
everybody knows he's not replaceable.
Right.
I mean, that's my big brother. He probably like half raised me. He's
But you clearly both went through a childhood together that could
well,
only
yeah,
probably either bring you together or split you apart permanently. So if you're together, you must be together tight.
yes, and this is the first thing that had to do with our family that just I am experiencing,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
that is such an absolute foreign feeling.
Yeah.
And of course, he doesn't know, he doesn't really know what to say to me, but he does his best. And he has to do a lot of navigating between my mom and me.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, that's so interesting. My brother does too. I mean, he just has to help. And doesn't have to help, but he's stuck in
yeah,
an unplanned or like unwittingly ambassadorship that but yeah, I'm sure is confusing.
yeah. Well, where he's lucky is he's in Colorado. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here with her.
Right. Oh, see, mine is the opposite. My brother is near my parents, and so that's why it's also
How'd you
a
make
different
that happen?
situation. I got out of there. I got out of there a long time ago. So they're nearby. So they're close. So it's more precarious. It's more precarious for him, and yet he also, I think, doesn't even have the expanse of empathy for it because it's not his story. It's not his situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want the
Yeah.
important people in my life to get along.
Mm-hmm.
The agreement I made with my dad is that I would never put him and my biological dad in the same room. That's an agreement we made.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I can understand.
Mm-hmm. That's something he asked for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because he said what it was a 36-year-old knife in his back.
Yeah. Oh, that's
because he had considered this individual his friend.
yeah. No, it's I am not questioning your dad's
And
decision or request.
I am yeah,
of course.
I am 100% willing to
Talking
respect
betrayal.
that.
Yeah.
And when I contacted my biological dad for the first time, he told me he would completely understand if my dad wanted to come down there and shoot him.
Shoot him. Yeah.
And he apologized to me multiple times.
Hmm.
But my dad has also told me that this guy, he's good people.
Right.
He said, despite this, they're good people.
Well, it sounds like your dad and you and a lot of these people are like really able to understand the way that nothing is all or nothing.
Oh yeah.
It's not black or white, and you can hold all sorts of things at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Well, my grandson's birthday is coming up, and my daughter invited my dad and the new parents. And I'm like, oh, you can't do that, Autumn. And so I contacted I call her my bonus mom now.
Mm-hmm.
I contacted her and I told her what the deal was. And she said, well, you just let us know. If your dad's going to be there, we won't go. If he isn't going to be able to make it, we'll try to make it.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, whatever makes you comfortable.
Oh, wow.
Like they're just very, very welcoming. He is struggling with telling his family. He's told a few of his family members.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's told any of his friends. They have a very tight-knit community, especially with their church.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And she asked me once when I went down there if it bothered me that he hadn't told all these people.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't bother me at all. I think that that's something he should do on his own time.
Mm-hmm.
It does bother his daughter, or two of his daughters at least, because as long as he's not telling people, they have to keep the secret.
Right.
And
That's the thing about secrets.
yeah. And I can understand not wanting to keep that. Because they're excited.
Right.
The brother is not a big deal. Because he came before his wife.
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
Right.
And so that one's not so much a big deal. That's explainable.
Right.
Now I have this brother, which I struggle with the brother part because I have something to compare him against. I have my brother.
Your brother.
And with me being as close to my brother as I am, I have a hard time with the new half brother. The sisters, I don't have a problem with at all because I don't have a sister.
Right.
And having sisters is kind of cool. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But he's very understanding of that relationship. And I like one day I told him I was grateful for that. And he said, well, I wouldn't be a big brother if I wasn't understanding.
Aw.
I'm like, okay. One of my half sisters also listens to your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And she really enjoys it too. They have all been listening to, like, they're on the different Facebook groups that they can be on.
Right.
And they read books to try to understand our perspective.
That's so nice.
Like, I just don't even know what to do with these people because I don't think I'm that nice of a person.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, before we met for the first time, I messaged the new parents and I told them, like, basically everything bad I had ever done in my life.
Oh, wow.
Just so I didn't ever have to worry about not saying something. I'm done with secrets.
Wow. Really, that's powerful. That's such a powerful image of just this, like, long list.
Yeah. And they told me that it didn't matter. Everything's in the past. And that people are human, which I completely agree with. But, you know, everybody has these things that they feel shameful about. But I am 100% just done with secrets.
Mm-hmm.
I have had to hold too many in my life. And
yeah.
I just can't anymore.
Your fair share.
And
exhausted.
My half sister is the one that got me looking at different support groups on Facebook, which I didn't even know existed.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's also the one that turned me onto podcasts because I listen to podcasts a lot when I drive because I visit foster kids all over the state of Kansas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I drive a lot. And, you know, it's just opened up a whole new world. And for me, I've been looking for one for anything that is somewhat similar to my story. I find bits and pieces. But most of the time, like, people are older when they find out.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And somebody in the equation has passed away.
Yeah.
Not all the players are in the game, or somebody doesn't have a tight relationship with their birth certificate father.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
Yeah.
Like today, my dad was talking to me and he said, he used the phrase to find out that he's your daddy. And I said, he's not my daddy. I was like, you are.
Right.
And he says, to find out he's your father. He said, I'm not splitting hairs on words. Right. I'm like, but to me, that's a big thing.
Right. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Rhetoric is really important in this whole experience for people.
I still don't know what to call him.
Mm-hmm.
I call him nothing, actually.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm talking to his daughters, I say, your dad.
Right.
If I'm in the same place as him, I will wait until he looks at me to speak. And they all know.
Yeah, these situations make all the words important.
They really do. And like his daughters have talked about, like, what about when my other kids graduate? Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to put people together. And I'm like, I haven't thought this far ahead.
Right.
I was like, I wasn't even planning on having a relationship with you guys.
Right.
But here we are. So I'm just taking it one step at a time. I didn't have a plan. I mean, really, who does?
Right. I was about to say, like, maybe that's the best way to go into it because then if you don't have expectations.
I remember now where I was going with the Facebook group thing. So I actually wanted to be like one of the DNA angels.
A search angel?
Yeah. And so I had gotten into a few and I was trying to figure out how to do it because like when somebody passes away, I go into help mode. Because that's how I handle it.
Yeah.
I handle it by helping others. That's how I grieve.
Yep.
And so I desperately want to help other people because helping them is also going to help me. And it's like a win-win. And so I got put into, I don't know if I can say what it is.
Oh, are you asking me?
You're in it as well, I think.
Yeah, we're in one of the same groups. Yeah, at least one of the same groups.
Yeah, and it's to help the mental health initiative. Which I really like that idea. And the more I think about the search angels, as much as I 100% would love to do that, I work 60 hours a week. I have 4 kids and a grandbaby that lives with me and my husband.
Yeah. A lot of people.
And I'm also kind of trying to start to get this little craft
thing. Yeah. What about my tote bags?
Yes. And so I'm like, well, maybe let's stick to this mental health side because I'm actually wanting to go back to school in the fall because I want to be a therapist.
Cool.
And my associates is in criminal justice, so I mean, it's not really going to help me in that area, but that's okay.
I mean, it will help you, but from a credits, logistics perspective, sure, it won't help you. But
so the group, the spot I got put in, I think is perfect.
Good.
And when they put me in it, I'm like looking at it, and all these really smart people on there, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. But the idea of being able to help other people, which is really why I wanted to do your podcast, is because if I was looking and I couldn't find it, somebody else is too. And maybe my story will help them.
100%.
Because listening to the podcast and reading everybody's stories and being able to talk to people who are like you and realizing you're not crazy and it's okay to have these emotions, it has been so helpful to me.
So helpful.
And of course I wouldn't have been able to get through this without my family. I feel very horrible for my children because there have been moments when their mom has just tucked in her room and just laid in bed and cried
because you've been distracted, right?
Yeah, because like my maiden name, which is Fox, I'm a redhead. That was a huge thing to me. I loved my name.
Yeah.
And I struggle with it now because it wasn't supposed to be mine.
Right.
I struggle with the fact that my brother that I am so insanely close with is actually my half brother. And that's just like, it doesn't change anything. Like nothing's different between us. But like one night he was here to visit, I think it was during my daughter's graduation party or something. And we were joking about genetics or something. And we were joking. And I mean,
how one does. DNA.
We did start it. And I probably started it. But somewhere in there, he slipped in a joke about half sibling. Waterworks instantly.
Oh, it just hits you and you don't expect it.
Yep. And he felt so bad. And I told him, I said, and I had already told my husband that it will always be too soon to joke about it. The only one who gets to joke about it is me.
I was gonna say, I was like, I joke about mine all the time.
Yeah, the only one.
But you're right.
To.
It's like I get to. Yeah.
And he felt so bad, and he probably won't make that mistake again. And you know, it's just it hits you at just random times. Like when my stepmom told me that, you know, my stepbrother probably overheard conversations, and I'm sitting here thinking about it. That next day was a bad day. I spent a lot of that day crying.
Yeah.
But I also spent a lot of that day talking to my new half brother, because he's the only person that is like close to my situation.
Right. Yeah.
Even though it's, you know, not the same. But that did help. And, you know, I try to stay busy. Yesterday I ripped out.
I get that idea. I get that feeling about you.
Yeah. Yesterday I demoed my basement so I could start rebuilding today. There's just so many aspects to everything. I've been so worried about not hurting people's feelings, especially my dad.
Yeah, sure.
The people I'm most worried about actually are my dad and my new bonus mom, because I feel like they're the people who were jilted.
Right. Sure. That makes sense to me.
And I don't want them to be uncomfortable. And my dad told me that I can't make him uncomfortable. Aww. That if I'm happy, he's happy. Now we all know that. No, he's not. He's secretly wishing it all to go away.
That's a generous thing to say.
But he loves me, and I know he does.
Right.
And the relationship between my mom and I is not amazing. And it's more of a, if she'll just let me love her from a distance, we'll be fine. And you know, everybody has their cross to bear and their thing that they have to heal from. And I have a whole lot of healing to do still. I mean, yesterday was 6 months.
So fresh. You were like a newborn baby in this whole
yes. But yet it feels like it's been forever. And I think part of that's COVID.
Yeah, I was about to say, compounded by the pandemic does not help.
But actually, I think that time was perfectly timed for us. Because that gave us a chance to get to know each other. Yeah.
It's like it gave you parameters or boundaries to get space, whether you wanted it or not.
Yes, and I definitely needed that. I don't really know where you go from here, other than just, you know, keep on ticking along. And eventually, I'm told it gets easier. But I have noticed that most of the time the people saying this, somebody in their equation has passed away. But I have, you know, talked to numerous just amazing people who have been through some sort of trial or tribulation with this. I have talked with one of the other people who was on your podcast, and he was screening me for a group, and I saw his name, and I'm like, that's not an overly common name anymore.
Right.
And I actually had not listened to like maybe but 2 or 3 males on the podcast because I was looking for a situation like mine.
Right. You want to go.
And so I'm looking at it, and his profile picture is a Sheltie. I have a Sheltie. So I was like, you wouldn't have happened to have been on this podcast, would you? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I listened to it. And I felt like I was talking to a celebrity.
Yeah, it's like
I told everybody. I'm like, so cool. I talked to somebody. And he's incredibly nice, and we can talk about our Shelties.
Yep, he's the nicest man.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And so, I mean, this whole new world has opened up that I have absolutely no idea what to do with. Other than just muddle through and survive it. But at the same time, like, I feel sorrow and joy at the same time. sorrow for what I feel like I've kind of lost. Not that I've lost my dad. I haven't, and I never ever will. Because my dad is my dad. That's the person that hugged me when I was little and kissed my boo-boos and taught me so many things.
Mm-hmm.
But there is the identity issue, and now I have this worry that if I do something wrong, I might lose him. Whereas, like my brother, that's his dad.
Right. Right.
But that's just me getting in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something that's actually going to happen, but you can't help but think it. But now I have this whole other family here, and I don't come from a close-knit family, and they are very close-knit.
Right.
And so it's something I have to learn to navigate. I have talked to them every single day since April.
Wow. That's a lot of talking.
Every morning they get on and everybody says good morning and says kind of like what they're doing.
Wow.
His mom is still alive. She is 95 and in a nursing home. And I'm trying to decide.
That's the longevity he was warning you about.
Yes, it is. I am trying to decide whether or not I want to meet her. I don't know if she has Alzheimer's or dementia. She has memory issues. Okay. And so, I mean, she's not going to remember me anyways. She's probably going to think I'm one of her old students because she used to be a teacher. But I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to meet her.
Right, and what that would mean for you, yeah.
Yes, my grandmother, my dad's mom, just passed away last December, the day before my birthday. And she was, everybody called it, she was Grandma Lovey. That obviously wasn't her actual name, but that's what us kids, that's all of us grandkids called her. And she was amazing. And I do have my mom's mom is still alive, but now I have this other grandparent, and I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to meet her, and if I'll regret it if I don't.
I guess that's always kind of the threat or the shadow or something about these things. Is like, what will you regret if you don't do it?
Yeah. And he has 2 sisters that were adopted.
Oh, interesting.
There's a lot of adoption in this family. Like my 2 cousins from my dad's sister, and their dad was actually adopted. So they went from being blood related to me to like adopted related.
Right.
I don't really know how you describe that. And I have told them on my dad's family, just in case somebody from this other side tells them, I didn't want them to get blindsided. And I did let my dad know that I told them. And he told me that I could tell whoever I wanted. It was my story.
Gosh, he says all the right things.
My dad's pretty great.
Which is so sweet because we all know that like he's probably not feeling all those things necessarily, but
yeah,
he's so supportive and encouraging. That's so sweet.
And these 3 sisters that I have, and even my new half brother, they're fantastic. I'm like, wow, like Andrew and I are close in a different way.
Yeah,
I can't explain it. Like him and I went through.
I was about to say,
well, you can't. Together.
No one can recreate the experiences of the history you have, which develops the relationship you have now, right?
But this having sisters things is kind of cool. But the 2 came and helped me with
I can imagine. Yeah,
they came and helped with my daughter's graduation party, and I would not have survived that thing without them.
That's so cool. Yeah,
they all know how to cook. I'm not domestic at all. I hate cooking. They made these beautiful fruit trays, and like it was amazing what they did. And I'm running around like a crazy person doing who knows what. And they made it happen. And the sisters thing's was really kind of cool.
That sounds really cool. I actually had a long think about that today about sisters and what that means and what I would want and what are my options.
Well, see, when I was looking for him, like when I had it narrowed down to the two brothers, I guess my uncle has 2 sons, and then he had the 3 daughters. But they weren't my goal.
Right.
So I didn't really look into them.
Mm-hmm.
But when they found out about me, boy, did I get stalked.
Right. Right.
And so
right.
they're talking to him. I'd say this or that, and they'd go, "Oh, we know."
Mm-hmm.
Which is 100% something I would say.
Right. Right.
Because when we figured everything out with the half brother, us 4 girls spent like 4 hours on Zoom together researching until we figured out who he was.
Yeah, I mean, just right now when you said like us 4 girls, like I just felt jealousy and like admiration and like longing and like sensing the connection. That sounds
it's different, but it was an easy connection. So it's been a roller coaster. It's probably going to continue to be a roller coaster.
I'm sure it will.
I mean, I still have my maternal side of the family that I have to deal with. I don't even know what to do there. Because I don't, like I said, I'm done with secrets. I don't want to be a secret. And the Facebook comment, I left it.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
Dad said to do what I wanted, and I would rather not hurt my new half brother's feelings than try to keep my mom's secret.
Right.
So
there you go.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So this whole thing just kind of spiraled for me because my only intention was to notify him of my existence.
Right. Yeah. Wow. You got so much more than you asked for.
Uh-huh. And at that point, like when his wife messaged me, I was like, I'm just going to roll with the punches. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
And I know how fortunate I am.
Mm-hmm.
I have read so many stories where people are not this fortunate.
Yeah.
I find myself fortunate in a lot of ways and then unfortunate in others. Because I do have everybody alive. And I do have all these things I have to navigate. Mm-hmm. And it brings a lot of guilt because, you know, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings who is still here to feel them. Not that I want anybody to die. Please God, nobody die. But I opened up old wounds with my parents that I really didn't know were there. And it's been a bit of a mess, but I'm slowly figuring it out. And
you didn't create the problem. I mean, you know, it's like you know this, but you didn't create the problem with opening up the wounds with the parents. The wounds got opened, but they had created them.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that, but
although, and the one thing, I have never looked like anybody. My brother and I, like, we would go somewhere and people thought we were dating. We looked that different. And my bonus mom sent me a picture of him from when he was about my age. And a friend of mine put him on a side-by-side.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Twins.
I found who I look like.
Right.
And that was the weirdest thing.
Sure. Yeah.
I've just never had anybody. Now, the red hair still isn't there. There is red in the family, but he doesn't have red hair. And I am like red hair. So that wasn't there. But the face, the nose, the bone structure, it was just unreal. But then like the other day I was sitting on my porch and I was looking at my hands because my hand hurts from throwing horseshoes, and I have tendonitis right now.
That's about being a champion.
Well, yeah, I guess. I was looking at my hands, and I've always looked at my dad's hands because he has I call them Flintstone hands. Short, just stubby hands with big palms.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I was looking at my hands, and my brain went to how I have dad's hands. And then, like, it remembered.
Right.
And I just had this instant sorrow. Because they couldn't possibly be Dad's hands.
Right.
And then I thought about my brother. My brother has Dad's hands, and he even moves them, his fingers, the same way.
Oh, wow. Uh-huh.
But like the other day on our group chat, my bonus mom asked everybody what toe on their foot is the longest toe.
Oh, uh-huh.
And for me, it's my second toe. And for all the sisters, it's their second toe.
Right.
And for him, it's his second toe. For her, for my bonus mom, it's her first toe, her big toe.
Right.
Because I guess that's genetic.
Yep.
And my new half brother is his second toe also.
Of course.
So, but like my new half sisters, they're giants.
Oh.
They get that from their mom's side of the family.
Okay.
Because I'm the shortest, of course. Nothing has changed here. I'm also still the baby. The oldest is no longer the oldest. She became a middle child.
Right.
The baby of the family became a middle child. And the middleest is the middleest of the middle.
Right. She's just, she just secured her location as the middle.
Yeah. And one day I'm going to make t-shirts for all of us that have something funny along those lines.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yeah. I did make my half-brother a shirt for his birthday that said, what? I have a picture. Why am I drawing a blank? The shirt says, promoted to Big Brother, established 2020.
That's really special. Yeah. I love all that stuff. I love those jokes.
Yeah. And I've talked to him, and he kind of had a similar upbringing to like what I had. And so he has his filter on high alert also. Like, every now and then, bad words slip out of my mouth. I'm not a big bad word person. I'm not, but they do come out.
Right.
But like when
there's
I'm
an edge to you.
Yeah. When I'm around them, I try really hard to keep that filter on. And he's doing the same thing.
That's funny.
But with each other, we don't have to.
Right. So you two have like your own secret connection.
Yeah.
Not secret, special.
Like I was able to talk to him about the birthday cards. And I'm like, so how overwhelming was that?
Yeah. Like, whoa.
And what kind of stuff was in there? What'd they say? So, I mean, I'm able to.
Cool. You guys are like siblings in experience.
And I asked him one time, I was like, so have you decided what you're going to call him? And he's like, no, I was wondering the same thing. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know yet. And so we came to the agreement that if the other one figures it out, we'll let the other one know.
Right. Keep us posted.
We still don't know.
Keep a brainstorm list going. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like in my little story, there's 3 different MPEs. And I'm in a very unique position where I am the MPE and I've been the parent of one.
Right.
So I think it makes it to where it's easier for me to understand all sides.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I've kind of, well, not all sides, but a lot of sides.
No, I actually, like, I really actually want to talk to you about the other one another time, not right now, but
yeah,
I want to pick your brain about that a little bit.
Definitely.
That's a perspective that I actually think I understand it wholly, but I think that people need to talk about it more. Yeah,
they should.
Yeah.
Like I feel like for like my new bonus mom, I feel like there should be a subgroup and things for people like her.
Yeah.
And I know that she's been looking for something like that. Because she's trying so hard to understand so much. But I feel like she also needs an outlet as well.
Yep.
Complicated,
man.
A person can only be so understanding, but they have to have somebody.
Right.
She did say that I helped them get their garage clean.
Oh, well.
Because that's what they did the day he told her.
Sometimes what you really need is a project. I understand.
Boy, do I know.
Yeah.
I started
crocheting.
crocheting.
It'd be really funny if we did a survey of what NPEs have begun since this information happened.
Oh, I know.
Probably find so many like birdhouses are made.
So yeah.
Amazing. Yep, I understand that. Kimberly, this is so great. I am so thrilled we got to spend some time together tonight. And I get the feeling we're going to talk some more because I have more questions for you and
Definitely
more to connect about. And thank you so much for sharing your different that you're coming from different perspectives and that you also, I think everybody I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that didn't, but you've come to your situation with a lot of empathy for people and a lot of understanding of the complexities of the human condition. And I appreciate that. And I think it's really important that we share that stuff and talk about it.
There is one thing that I haven't said that I should say. I haven't said a whole lot about my biological dad, like about him himself. He is a really nice and good person.
Mm-hmm.
And I've finally gotten comfortable with him hugging me. It's not awkward now. If I ask a question, he answers it.
Yeah.
But he's got a sense of humor like mine, and he is a good person who made a mistake. Not that I'm the mistake. And he said that.
Right. No, I mean, you just said it right there. It's like that's the truth of the matter is that most people are very good people and that all people make mistakes. And if the world or society or our culture could broaden their minds about the understanding of that, this might not be such a problem.
Exactly.
Hello again. I hope you really enjoyed that talk with Kimberly. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, getting to hear her story. What you can't hear in the conversation with Kimberly and I is that a major crisis happened in the middle of everything with her daughter's big toe. Her daughter smashed her toe, something awful, while we were talking. It was the most agonizing thing to hear on this end. At one point, Kimberly had to get off the phone. There was some discussion of a hospital visit. There was like a lot of wailing from this poor girl. It was like I was listening to a Southern Gothic novel in real time or something. I had to listen to the whole thing. So all of this to say, I'm just so appreciative of the time that people are taking to talk to me. We're just talking to regular people with regular lives that require all parts of us in different ways. People are finding time to do this within, like, they have dinners to cook and jobs to work and commutes to drive and babies to feed and like this poor toe to take care of on this daughter. So I'm just so grateful, and I just hope everybody recognizes that this is just about regular people experiencing an event that I want to make regular. I want to normalize the NPE conversation. So the best thing to do is to find normal people, and that's what I got. So people are finding the time, and I'm so appreciative because this podcast would be nothing if I didn't have all these people sharing their stories, especially in 2020, which is the hardest year of our life. Just me? No? Yes? Thank you for listening, everybody. I'm Eve Sturgis. This is Everything's Relative with Eve Sturgis. I hate that, you guys. Follow us on Instagram. Review on your pod platform. Share with your friends. I will be back in 2 weeks with episode 10. See you later.
Everything's Relative with Eve Sturgis is produced by Kaylin Egan and Eve Sturgis. Eve is a licensed therapist in the state of California, but conversations on this podcast are not therapy sessions. This podcast is edited by Stephanie DeLon-Zick, the logo design is by Ivy McNally, and the music is used with permission by Goodbye the Band.